The stock market absolutely plummeted today with fears that there is a new global financial crisis on our hands. Today we're going to talk about that situation, but also how you can take advantage of it. How's it going, guys? Ryan here, coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to talk about the current situation on the market. The share prices across the board of all stocks have absolutely plummeted. But before we get into that, please remember to like my video, helps me out so much. Comment any questions, queries, or thoughts down below as you're going through and watching this video, and remember to subscribe for more content. And get on my social media, check out my Twitter, I've linked it down below for anyone who's interested in keeping up to date with what I'm currently looking at, what I'm talking about, and the hottest sort of trends going on in the market at the moment on the Australian Stock Exchange. So let's get straight into it, and today I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what's currently happening on the stock market, and in particular on the Australian Stock Exchange, which dropped an absolutely phenomenal amount today. And what we actually saw on this Monday, which is the 9th of March, was the ASX dropping 7.33%, which is an absolutely enormous number. And these are the sort of levels we saw back in the GFC, and they haven't been seen since. So as you can imagine, a lot of investors are absolutely panicking right now, trying to work out what they should do, if they should just sell their shares, if they should hold on, or if they should buy shares, because as you can see, the shares are extremely cheap on the market now. There's lots of bargains out there, but is it worth the risk? Is this the bottom of the drop? Well, let's talk about that today. Now, picking the bottom is something that's extremely difficult to do, especially when you're looking at the stock market as a whole, and particularly in such volatile times as we're currently seeing now. Not only do you have global markets collapsing, you also have the drop in oil prices, you have the global crisis of the coronavirus currently going on. There is absolutely so much that could affect the market right now. In particular, a good one is the US election. Who knows what's going to happen with that, but that is definitely going to have an impact not only on the US market, but these things also have an impact on the Australian market as well. What you really want to be looking for is a recovery type situation occurring where the stock market stabilizes, the fluctuations going up and down violently decrease, and you want to see sort of stable levels, whether that be a stable sidewards tick of the stock market overall, or a slow increase over the period of a few weeks or months before you decide to go in and say, hey, I'm going to start buying shares, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you buy shares and unfortunately the stock price continues to drop because the entire market is still dropping. This drop itself is really being generated by a snowball effect. As I mentioned before, there's lots of investors panicking on the market at the moment, and they're trying to get out and sell their shares. But as this occurs, the prices of shares across the board are dropping, and because the stock market overall is dropping, other investors are also panicking and jumping off the boat, if you will. And what this is effectively generating is a snowball effect, to the point where stop losses, where people have automatic sells in place in order to mitigate any potential losses, whether that be in profits or just losses in general, the shares effectively sell themselves. So what you're seeing is a massive snowball effect occurring, lots of people selling shares, and as a result the stock market overall is plummeting across the board, no matter sort of what industry you're looking at. You could be looking at biotech, you could be even looking at gold, and the gold price plummeting. That is insane. Sorry, not the gold price, the gold equity price plummeting. That's what's insane right now. The gold price itself is doing well, as you'd expect. But you look at other industries as well, mining going absolutely down, farming, anything sort of like that. Everything's dropping. There's not really an area you can look at which is increasing. I have seen a few gold producers who are currently producing, going up relatively well, but all the explorers are still dropping. And effectively, this is where I can see there could be some good potential to invest within the coming weeks and months. We'll get back to that point in a minute, but as an investor overall, what should you do? Now, if you're feeling very uneasy and you don't have a clear strategy in place, that is fundamentally an issue in itself. If you are investing long term, you want to make sure you're investing in companies that A, can withstand these sort of crisis occurring on a global scale, and B, you want to make sure these companies have good fundamentals to then grow when the actual stock market does recover. And if those two things aren't in your strategy, then realistically you should sell, or you should have sold a few days ago when the stock market wasn't as low, and get out and invest in those companies which you can see the good fundamentals in. The first thing you want to make sure you don't do is panic, because at the end of the day, when you panic, you make irrational decisions. So for instance, you might actually be selling a share which is clearly going to bounce in the near to even long-term future, and you could lose money that you potentially could have held onto. On the other hand as well, you don't want to be too relaxed and you're investing in some real high risk companies that could go broke as a result of a situation like a global financial crisis. You don't want to be holding those sort of shares, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to suffer, in particular the penny stock sort of companies which don't have too much pedigree, don't have too much going behind them, and who struggle with cash flow in particular. You want to be avoiding those sort of shares. And if you hold anything like that, unless they've got a good cash position and solid fundamentals at the moment, you probably shouldn't be invested in these when there is a global crisis occurring. So if you are in these, it's probably a good idea to take into consideration potentially selling them if that is sort of the position you're in a negative scenario. And what you should be doing is looking at companies which have gone down significantly in value and are now currently undervalued as a result of this panic that's occurred. So you can see across the board there is absolutely tons of companies who have dropped 10, 20, 30, even a high percentage than that due to this. And as a result, you can actually pick up some absolute bargains at the moment. And as I've mentioned previously, and in my previous videos as well, my sort of area that I'm looking at the moment is the gold exploration companies. And this is due to the fact that they have a lot going for them at the moment. A, the share price is dropping and you can pick them up for quite cheap. But B, the gold price is going through the roof at the moment, and we could see this year potential new highs for gold, and that would be absolutely fantastic for gold explorers coming into the market. Now, I'm saying explorers because if you've got a gold producer, yeah, you can probably put your money into those and you'd make a few percent. But if you're looking at the gold explorers in particular, you're willing to take a bit more of a risk. Look for something that is doing quite well from a fundamental point of view. So look for companies which have a decent resource that they could be potentially expanding upon. You want to be looking for the companies which in the future, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the track, are going to be worth an absolute mint. Basically, you want to look at those gold producers and you want to say, okay, from the explorers, what gold explorers could turn into those gold producers in 5 years' time, because that's where you're going to find real value when you're investing, especially in times where there is a crash or a dip in the market, because you can pick these shares up for absolutely nothing and make a lot more money than investing in current gold producers, for instance. Alternatively, you could also look at the typical blue chip shares which generally do well no matter what sort of environment is going on, because regardless of whether these companies are performing well or not, they're all dropping in price. So you might see a blue chip company which has dropped 20, maybe 30% in price over the past few weeks. And you know, when the stock market is to recover, these are going to go up to where they were or up to even higher points from a share price perspective. And these are a bit more of a safer option for those people who are a bit more risk adverse and don't want to put their capital at risk, or don't have the, I suppose, capacity to be willing to risk that amount of money. Using both these strategies could actually be even more beneficial, because let's say your riskier investment decides that no, it actually doesn't work out. You've still got then that offset by the more blue chip style investments, which are more likely to recover over time, and as a result you're sort of balancing out your potential risk, and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket when it comes to risky companies. And you've got, let's say, I don't know, 20% of your portfolio invested in the penny stocks that you think are going to go absolutely crackers in the future, and the other 80% safely invested in those blue chip companies which will eventually recover and start growing significantly, but now you've picked them up at a very cheap price. I'd love to know what you guys think of the best strategy currently out there at the moment in a situation particularly like a crash or a global financial crisis. What should you do? Should you sell all your shares? Should you just hold onto your money and not invest at all? Or should you look at those bargains and pick them up? Leave your comments down below and we can generate a bit of a discussion. And with that, guys, I'm going to wrap up the video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to leave a like down below. Follow me on social media, in particular my Twitter account. That's where I'm keeping everyone up to date with what I'm doing and the sort of shares that I'm looking at and my opinions and that sort of thing. So with that, guys, I really hope you had an awesome day, enjoyed the video, and with that, cheers, see you next time.